DeFi is like, you could do rich people stuff, but be poor, like, and do that, like if I talk to like an accounting manager, hey, I have $500 that I'd like to invest. He'd be like, yeah, bro, just come in with a few more zeros, right? But like, if you want to learn stuff, like DeFi is like one of the best places where you can learn more about traditional finance than traditional finance if you don't have a lot of money.
Welcome to the DevNTell podcast, where founders, hackers, and anyone in between showcase their products built on the bleeding edge of tech. GM, welcome back on the show, Billy. Excited to have you on, man.
Awesome. Yes, good to be back. We could be back under a different banner now, under the Katana banner.
That's right. Yeah. That's some six swag you're wearing right there, man.
Yeah, actually, I made this myself, customized. I like, the t-shirts are cool and everything, but like when I fight, like I have a rash guard, so this is kind of like a what is it, like a more of a slick kind of thing. So like when I'm wrestling or anything, like I wanted something that was cool, and like the Katana colors are kind of flashy. So I'm like, well, I guess it's a free advertising, and it's called Katana, so like it has something to do with Warriors. So like it works.
That's awesome. I think if it's custom made, I think Katana should start selling it. I think it would sell pretty well.
It's an exclusive team only one. I did a run in the very, very beginning, and I was like, who in the team wants one? I mean, not everybody's like athletic, but I'm like, yeah, it's cool anyway. It's a cool shirt. I'd wear it. It has the Katana logo on the side. Yeah, I don't know. I did my design. It has like a little discoloration, like has a little sword slash. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. And I guess swag aside, for people who might be watching today and aren't familiar with yourself, would you just like to give a introduction?
Absolutely. So yeah, I'm Billy Jitsu on Twitter. I got started in the crypto game in 2017, like right before that rush. So like I got in early. I was just talking to some folks. Always been into tech. And then we had the 2017 December rush, and I thought it was a genius. I'm like, oh, why should I invest in stocks and everything? I was like, this is easy money, right? And then I held it all the way. I round tripped it all the way to 2018, 2019, and I kind of just cruising along with it, here and there, buying some stuff on there, and saw the ETH at $80 moments as well. And like in 2020 during COVID, like when DeFi summer came around, that's when I was like, whoa, this is really exciting. Like that really like blew my mind of like what you could and couldn't do. And then obviously 2021 prices were going up and there was nothing else to do because you were all stuck at home. So like I started really getting into smart contracts, learning how to code. Once upon a time, I was an engineer, a computer engineer way back when, but I didn't really like the industry. It was kind of cool, but I felt more of like just a technician than actually creating stuff. And so like I had basically run my own business doing IT consulting for security. So I haven't touched code in like years. So like VS Code and GitHub and all like, what is all this stuff? So I spent like most of my time just kind of figuring it out on YouTube. And what I learned was if you don't know what to ask, if your Google Fu isn't good, it's very difficult to learn how to do anything. So when I'm trying to learn how to do smart contracts and do everything, like how to make a token, and then I see all the DevRel come back next week for part 2. And then there was never a part 2. I'm like, where's the part 2? And I would be looking. I'd watch YouTube videos for 45 minutes to get that one function that I needed that explained, and like that would be like, man, I wish there was an easier way to do it. So my DevRel style, as I ultimately started working in it, became the frustration of like what it is when you're starting out. And it's like a lot of assumptions. A lot of like, oh, you already know this. I'm like, no, I don't. So like as I'm coming in, I'm like, okay, when I'm coming into like brand new interfaces or brand new anything, like what do I need? Just kind of hand it to me. And that's kind of been like my DevRel style coming in through like this evolution of like learning and going through. And as I was learning, that's how I learned about Developer DAO. I saw one of Natter's videos of like, that's literally one of the YouTube videos I was looking at. I'm like, whoa, this is cool. Like there's a whole group of people that are into smart contracts. I minted the NFT on there and I joined, and it was overwhelming of like all these projects and a lot of developers that were aspiring on there. So it's, it's kind of a crazy evolution that I became a contributor to that. And that's kind of like what led me to my first gig, Dev Relations, and then kind of evolved from that. But DeFi is my heart and soul. Like that's what like gets me excited about smart contracts, like being able to have it open to anybody. Like DeFi is like, you could do rich people stuff, but be poor, like and do that. Like if I talk to like an accounting manager, hey, I have $500 that I'd like to invest. he'd be like, yeah, bro, just come in with a few more zeros, right? But like, if you want to learn stuff, like DeFi is like one of the best places where you can learn more about traditional finance than traditional finance if you don't have a lot of money. And I thought that was really cool. And so like, that's been my biggest draw from there.
Amazing, man. Yeah, and you have quite the tenured background, and yeah, I can attest. You're a DeFi whiz. If people don't know, Billy is the champ of the DeFi investment side of Developer DAO. So, yeah, and we're really grateful for him being here and to able to guide us through that. But you mentioned it too, like before like the way you would learn, and I learned this. I learned smart contract development the same way. It was just finding tutorials, kind of reading up on your own, and people would give you just enough to kind of get you to from like 0 to 1 or 1 to 2, but then you're kind of on your own to go figure out the rest of it, which is like I love the challenge. You just go force something to be learned. But times have changed now. In a couple, like now, everything is AI driven. You can go ask your Chat GPT or your Claude how to do something. It might not be correct, but it'll
Yeah.
kind of go through the same motions now.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. I would say Katana is a very AI heavy, focused on there as like not doing the work for you, but creating like frameworks and save a lot of that mundane time on there. It does make you way more productive on there, especially like creating a README, right? Like I remember in hackathons, I'd be like, oh, I'm tired. It's 36 hours in. I have my code working, front end working. It's like, oh my God, I got to do a README. And then you have to spend all that time. Now I can say, hey, can you look at all this code, put the README, and then you can clean it up, right? So like when it's not like critical stuff, AI is very helpful for like run ends and like, quickly making adjustments on stuff that you understand the code for. Yeah, definitely. I would not put my money in a purely vibe coded contract, but it's definitely helpful. I use it on the daily for different things on different tasks and automating stuff. So that's kind of one of the things that I'll be showing you guys today as well. Like part of Katana's like AI tool.
Yeah, and I'm really curious to see it in action. But I guess before we kind of get into that, just to set the scene, DeFi is great for everything that it does and everything that it's done to this point. But I'm sure you can attest that there's still some problems with overall accessibility and whatnot. I guess in your mind, you've been in the space long enough. Like, what are some of the some of the gaps, some of the bigger problems in the DeFi space before it can get truly adopted worldwide?
Number one issue for sure, and one of the things that stops me from like going all in is trust, right? Like every so often you're gonna see this got hacked, this was hacked, 24 million lost, 36 million lost, $100 million lost, and then we hope that we get it back, and some people takes the losses. That's definitely a big issue, right? Like especially right now, when you look at rates on mainnet or something, like you're putting $1 million at risk for 3%, or you could just take it out in a couple T-bills for 4% and have it insured, right? So like those are kind of things that are really a big hump of like, wow, how come I'm not going all in? I'm strategically putting like what I'm willing to lose for what the return is in certain aspects on there. Given that Katana has some pretty heavy incentives right now that make that risk worth it, right? So it's definitely, if you haven't seen what's going on, definitely check it out. But that's by far the number one thing of like saying, hey mom, put your life savings on here, right? Like imagine like that's something possible. Like there's always that risk factor. So it's one of those biggest hurdles we have to do. And now with AI, people are using AI for good. I've seen a lot of those auditing things, and then people are also using AI for bad, a lot of black hack activity, right? So they're scanning all the old contracts, looking for exploits. So like it's going both ways. So it's always a constant battle of where we get there. Every time there's a hack, we get hardened. You harden the contracts, we get them stronger. Eventually, we're going to get there. It's just it's not yet, right? So like there's always some form of risk anytime with DeFi, even with the front ends too, right? Like even though if you have the most basic levels of DeFi, there's a lot of different pieces, a lot of different Lego pieces that can fall apart, and then basically house of cards come crashing down because some rounding error happened on some oracle. It's like, man. So it's one of those things. And then getting TVL as a DeFi founder, right? Looking at it from both sides as a founder that's trying to start out with getting things going. If you don't have initial capital to make yourself legit, it's very difficult to get started, right? Because me as a user, I'm looking in and I see a brand new vault and I say, hey, only $100. Oh, they're going to rug me, right? Like, you're just trying to start. And if you don't have initial capital to show people, hey, like, there's been enough trust in this to put a lot of money in here, then it's like, well, why should I do it? And there's no money to incentivize people to do that. So that becomes a problem. And that's something that Katana kind of like looks at as well. And like those initial ones, because we've kind of been there, right? As builders and what we've been there, and that things like we have these ideas, but it just doesn't take off. So like, what are those missing factors that take off?
Yeah, wonderfully said. And yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with all of it. And I guess perhaps some of these problems Katana is looking to solve. So I guess what would be your so-called elevator pitch of Katana for people watching today?
Well, it's not so much of an elevator. But let me share my screen really quick on here. I'm kind of making like what is Katana on here. So the next generation DeFi chain, like what we are is a very opinionated chain. I don't want to say we're exactly an app chain, but we are focused on exact narratives, right? So you as a builder, you as a user, have you ever been somewhere on a restaurant and with someone that's very undecisive because they have a ton of options, right? Like you can go to like a burger joint that serves tacos and serves spaghetti or something. It's like, let's just get a burger, right? And then you go to a burger joint that only has burgers that say, hey, you want a single or a double, right? Your decisions are made quicker. It's a lot less stressful, right? And that's kind of what Katana is doing in a sense. We have an orchestrated DeFi stack. We have a set of core apps, right? One DEX, which is Sushi Swap right now. One lending borrowing app, which is Morpho, and one perps, which will be coming out eventually soon, something like. There's no fragmentation like on what to bet on, right? So think of it like an Apple ecosystem, right? There's one iPhone, whether iPhone Pro or whatever, but okay, I want a MacBook. You know exactly what you do. As a builder, you know exactly what to bet on, right? Morpho's not going away, right? So if I'm building something that's going to have leverage staking or leverage looping or anything like that, it is going to be built on Morpho, right? There's been many chains that we see right now, especially now that there's a lot of dApps out there winding down. Imagine you built your leverage on top of that. So now your Lego piece underneath just fell apart, right? And so now with this orchestrated DeFi stack, you can now create strategies that are not going to go away and they're being built together, right? The number one thing about this is capital gets put to work day one, right, on the chain. Anytime you bridge into Katana, those bridge assets are getting put to use in like a productive strategy on ETH mainnet, right? So theoretically, you could say we're one of the most ETH aligned L2s out there because we're actually doing something on ETH mainnet, right? It's not like, hey, we'll get you back and we'll pay some sequencer fees. We're doing that already, but we're also doing something on the ETH mainnet directly on there. It also builds in chain owned liquidity, right? So that means less slippage on there. So as the chain grows, as the TVL grows, the chain owned liquidity will be there. So when people pull out liquidity or when chains so-called die, there's no liquidity. There's no, like the chain owns a lot of that liquidity. And anybody that's done founder stuff, renting liquidity is vampiric, right? So like, oh man, like, okay, I have 1 million TVL and then, okay, the terms have ended. You pull it out. You haven't made enough money. Now what, right? So like having access to that deep owned liquidity is something that makes you great. Like you have less slippage and your rates are a little bit better, right? And then the cat token, right? That's basically kind of like the vein of this whole mountain of DeFi. Is like your emissions kind of like go through like your voting system on here. So you are, I guess the one of the best examples for that would be like let's say airplane miles, right? You're a constant flyer. You're a user of that airline, that specific airline. You always go specifically with the airline. You earn those miles. Now, as this major mile holder, that you've been using on there, you get to vote like on where the routes are. Let's say I was going from LA to New York, but we have to fly through Atlanta or do something. It's like, you know what? It's better if we go through the Texas side to the South side and come up with it. We get less turbulence. And then you as a voter get to decide that on there. You get to decide where the emissions go. So for those that are like not familiar with like Aerodrome or Velodrome or Solidity or Curve, basically you lock up your tokens. You can do whatever you want with the tokens, but you can lock up your tokens and that gives you kind of like a voting power. And then there's ongoing emissions going out that incentivize dApps on here. So like for Aerodrome, like you can incentivize a pool, ETH USDC or WRAP BTC USDC. And then you can get incentivized to do for your work. So you get basically vote how that works. Well, imagine that on the chain level, right? So when you work as a DApp on a chain, you're kind of on your own, right? You have to have your own token, you have to have your own incentives, and then you hope that maybe the DAO will throw some of their tokens on there for the chain, and then you get some incentives for like 2 months, and then those go away, and then your TVL gets lost. Well, imagine if you were able to vote for your DApp theoretically indefinitely, right? So if you have stake in the game and you're a user in the game, as a VCAT, which is the stake cat token, you get to vote where the emissions go, right? So you can, right now at this current time frame, we're limiting only it to DEX LP. So like you get to vote for like ETH USDC, ETH wrap BTC, or whatever your pool is. So if you are a user and I'm supplying liquidity to the ETH USDC pool, I'm going to vote for the ETH USDC pool so I get more APY, right? Like as a DeFi user, it makes sense. Like I'm in the game, I'm a user, I'm going to vote for what makes most for me, right? Because I'm a user. But as the chain expands and as our roadmap clears out and we start seeing it, we're going to be able to vote for things entirely on the chain. So I can vote for markets on borrow lending. I can vote for markets on like Spectra yield tokenization, PT tokens. I can vote for incentives on perp sex for volume, right? Like, oh, you know, I'm in this position. I have this delta neutral strategy. What works for me, right? And ultimately, you can vote for your DApp, right? The biggest thing for builders is that moat of getting TVL and having incentives. And the moment your incentives leaves, everybody kind of leaves. I know because I leave, right? If the incentives are not there and there's a better opportunity, it's like no hard feelings. I just found a better opportunity for me, for my money, my risk, right? So I'm going somewhere else. But if you can keep voting and keep those emissions coming to you, then I'll stay there, right? Because it makes sense for me. And that's kind of like the value prop of what Katana does, is like being able to do this kind of like flywheel type of scenario where you are the voter. Like if you're a user of the chain and you have, you know, your stack, or if you're actually like definitely using something in there, like you're using a DEX LP, your borrow lending, you can incentivize your own position with your own votes. And that's kind of like one of the biggest value props that I've seen that's very unique on there. So it's happening on the layer 1 level by, you know, using the ETH alignment on the strategies, and on the layer 2 level, you're getting your emission votes as well. And like, it's just basically the more people that come in to participate, you can't just sit there. You have to actually participate. The more you get out of the chain.
Wow. Well, yeah, that seems like that looks really awesome. Not gonna lie. Yeah.
That's why I joined.
yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
I might have missed it, but the entire incentivization to keep the token staked and in the network is so that you can participate in these types of votes. And
Absolutely.
basically there's some like game theory behind it I've read, but that's essentially the crux of it, correct?
Ultimately, yeah. There's also like different strategies on there. We have relayers. We're going to have something called AVCAT that you can then delegate some of your voting delegations on there. So you have to like do that service, and then, you know, it'll auto compound things for you, so you don't have to like vote like bi-weekly or something. I know it's a little bit of homework. Some people like it, some people not. We're doing different options, but again, it is very designed by people that actually use DeFi. And one of those things is like, I actually use the chain, to be honest. Like I have my own money on there. I have some investment strategies on there, because there's a lot of people, and right now we're getting cleared out in the space right now. Like people are moving and leaving the space. There's a lot of people that didn't actually use the product they sold. So like, I like to tell people, like, I actually use this product, right? Like I actually have stuff staked in Katana on there. I'm farming it. So I will be voting and I'll be doing, because I believe that works. As a DeFi user, I've seen the frustrations. I've seen like the fragmented liquidity. It's like, all right, this is something that's worth working towards. Yeah.
Sick. And I know you also mentioned it earlier, but you also have some alpha for us.
Oh yes, definitely.
Yes,
so
like,
I have seen a lot. Well, even like coming back to AI is definitely a major factor of like everything that we're building on here. And like a lot of people, you look at the timeline, AI, everything, and I see a skill set. So I kind of built out an MCP server. It's not live yet, but it's in there. But I wanted to make a good MCP server. I just want to make a crazy one. So like, I know this one takes a little bit of time on here. So I did some preset, and I'll do one live. But MCP server basically has it. So now that we know that we have one DEX, now that we know we have one borrow lending, one perps, one cat token, one system to kind of rule it all, you don't have to use that many tokens in order to scan opportunities on the chain, right? Like if you had to scan like every DEX, every aggregation, everything on the chain, it would take too much on there, or you'd have to, like, your RPC would be dead. But now that we have one of each, we can run really good information on the MPC servers of like, what's the status of this? What makes the most sense for me? So I created this MCP server for myself to begin with. What's the best strategy for me to do this? Like, I don't want to keep looking at doing analytics and do this and things change. I just want to ask the question and build out a contract, right? So ultimately I did that, right? So I was like, let me pull the data okay, can you tell me the current status of all the sushi pools? Which ones have the highest incentives, right? Our incentives model all run through Merkle, right? So if you're a builder out here and you're looking to run like some models or auto compounding services, all you have to do is grab all the incentives from Merkle and then auto compound them to whatever strategy you want, right? Very simple, 1-1-1, right? Kind of. I always compare it to like the Apple ecosystem, because I want to buy an accessory for my MacBook Pro. I'm not guessing the dimensions or anything. I already know 2026 MacBook Pro, these are the dimensions. This is how it works, right? An instant framework. And that's kind of what we want to do at Katana. So I was like, all right, it's going to go look, and it's going to look at all the pools that are available, how much volume, what are the reserves, what is the balance, and then what are the incentives by APR? Like, okay, boom, here's the fee schedule. This is the APR that it's dealing with. And then it has its own, like, again, I have to work on some disclaimers on here because it's not financial advice. It's just giving you the data on there of like what it is and what's available to you in a single thing. Like, as more agents and more DeFi agents are coming out, a lot of front ends aren't going to be as used as much, right? They're going to look at the data and they're going to make the decision based on the data. Better than saving tokens is talking to the MCP server that's very optimized. And I was like, do I want to use an MCP server or not? Because every time you connect one, it does take a little bit of tokens every time you ask a question. And there's a lot of open cloud users or, cloud version users. So like tokens are very big, reserved for me. Of like, when I connect to MCP server, it's got to be worth it, right? And so like I wanted to make sure that was optimized to maximum capability on there. So like, if I said, hey, what if I wanted to, pull all the lending Morpho vault opportunities, right? I want to deposit my USDC on Katana. Like what are the best APYs available on here? And so it looks at Morpho. And if anybody that's worked on Morpho realizes that the Morpho contract is static, but all the markets change and they grow indefinitely, right? So I can get certain markets and I want to keep updating it. So I have scripts running in the background that will do search indexing for you to save the tokens, so you don't have to search it yourself, blowing your tokens, and then return just like the top like 10, 15 datas on there. So you can go, hey, like these are all the ones that you can look at. And if you want to deposit for that with the incentives, also basically the direct markets. Maybe you don't want to go through a vault manager. Maybe you want to go direct to the market. I do that a lot too. And so I deposit on there to see what kind of utilization. Hey, is it liquid? Is it not liquid? Right? All these things a DeFi person would understand, would appreciate, right? And if you're learning, these are the numbers of the things that you want to look at, right? And so, it'll give me that. And then ultimately, what's my return, right? Like, where am I going to get the most returns on there? Who's doing the curation? That kind of stuff on there. And then like, all right, it'll give me like a general idea based on APY. But again, that's up to you at your discretion to use on here. And then for those that are a little bit more advanced, like looping strategies, right? What's the best looping strategy? So I have to consider when I'm looking at looping strategy, how much liquidity is there? What are the fees on the DEX when I got to sleep? How many bips am I paying? Is there any slippage on these things, right? So like this can be a tool that you can learn or that you can use to build off of, right? And so it'll go through all the looping strategies available on there. And this takes time. This took 2 minutes because I'm scripting, looking at all the different markets, all the different things. So that's why I kind of like preloaded it a little bit. But then it's going to return, hey, look, this is one of the best ones on here. This is how much volume. I suggest doing 5 loops because of the liquidity. So when you unwind, you don't, get wrecked. So like there's a lot of things that are considered that are very useful for DeFi users, DeFi power users that may be running through Excel scripts. Everything's moving towards AI and it's inevitable, right? So it's like, why not basically, cater to that audience on there? So as you built in the MCP server, you could get the skills directly if you want to directly, but this is pretty much how it works. And then like giving me different type of like, loop strategies, how much liquidity is available. Give me a flag on that. It's like, okay, there's only like 2 loops because the liquidity is not there, right? So as more markets change, I can't hard code that, right? I have to let the AI do its thing on there. So that's one of the biggest things on here. And then ultimately what everybody cares about, can you actually build it? Yes. If you wanted to build a smart contract, wanted to build a looping strategy, right? These are low tokens. So I just want to show you like the token usage. Can you help me see which USDC pool has the most rewards? And I really was worried about token usage. That was my number one. Because again, I was a $20 Claude user, and anybody that was using $20 Claude with Opus, 2 prompts and you're done for 5 hours, right? So, like, I'd be like, man, this is horrible. So anybody's starting out or doing anything, I'm like, this kind of sucks because I can't do anything, right? And then the people with $200, they're just, flying all day. So I was like, all right, let me make the token usage as small as possible, as minimal as possible. So I have scripts kind of like running on the back end, and just the tokens return the data, right? Like, so just the data gets handled by the tokens on there. And so, yeah, like this is kind of like just giving me the general idea of like what's available, what's here, like how much it's making. So like it's doing all the numbers for me, and it's just returning on like, what kind of data I get with minimum. I think that maybe use like 200 tokens or 300 tokens, not 1,000, right? But like I want to build something like, can you build me a smart contracts to handle the rebalancing? That's going to take some tokens, right? Because now going to do the logic in the in like the smart contract stuff and then building it out. But basically it knows what it needs to do, and it's going to help me do the rebalance for this on there. So like it's going to like pull the APIs that are already loaded. It's already set. So like that way it's going to like search and do everything for me. So when the MCP server goes live, I wanted it to be a really good tool for everybody to learn, to use, actually be a useful MCP server than just here's smart contracts, here's the docs, go build, right? And that was kind of like my biggest value prop of like, what would I use on there? So, those are kind of like how I would go. And obviously you can see it going and it'll build you stuff. So like I built it for users and for developers to go both ways, depending on how they wanted to go with that. But yeah, that's the MCP tool. I have so many acronyms in my head. It's like crazy. But that's the MCP server tool that I'm building for Katana on there. Yeah, it's just me on that. I'm owning it. That's my stack. So if there's any problems, definitely holler at me or blame me if you're getting your tokens blown out. But definitely, something I'm very considerate of on there. And so I'm going to skip it because I'm not going to blow those tokens. But ultimately, this is what it can, what it's ultimately wanting to do.
Awesome. Yeah, that's so dope. And yeah, it's awesome. You subtly mentioned it, but you said that you basically built something that solves a problem or something that you wanted to make more accessible for you, which is one of the key cornerstones of anybody who's trying to start a business or start a new venture, right? So you got to build something that solves your own problem, and then you kind of take it from there. So and I guess any more alpha around when people can start playing around with the MCP server? Or
I'm hoping in the next week or so. I'm getting an official link, right? I have it testing on a personal link. Don't click random links in crypto, right? So I want to make everything official, nice and safe. I'll probably make a tutorial guide on there, like how to install it to your Claude and get that up and running, and then show people. It works for everything. Like if you're using Codex or whatever, it's built for all the agents on there. But I just use Claude personally on there. So, but basically for every one of them. If you don't want to do the MCP server, you can get the skills directly and then use a bad skill. But just people tend to forget. And then again, I wanted to make an MCP server worth the tokens.
100%.
Yeah.
And as far as I've read, the token usage comes from the fact that the MCP server, when you start it up, it's got to load the entire schema of the tool set and whatnot as inside of the context, and that like blows it up every time. And we're seeing, at least I've seen a little bit, people are kind of getting around that by building CLI tools. Like Google released their whole workspace CLI like a couple of days ago to kind of like lead the
that's ultimately going to be the next step, right? Like I think AI changes so fast that like you'd have to be jobless to keep up with like how fast it's moving, because it's like so many things. But yeah, CLI is definitely the next step. Again, an agent first experience, right? Of like docs are great, but agentic servers and skills are better because it's already built in there. And as we move it, but we still have a long way to go before we do that. So we definitely want to have people use the app and use that on there. As we're going on there, I kind of wanted to show like what's happening on Katana. So I killed my screen, but let me bring it back here. But one thing I did want to highlight on there of like for DeFi and what it is, as I share my screen again, is like there's an ongoing incentive campaign right now on the Katana Earn. So if you are in the regions of Binance and OKX, if you are living that, I do not, so I cannot take advantage of it, unfortunately, but I would absolutely love to. Is there's crazy incentive campaigns happening on both concurrently right now. I think there's alpha like something else maybe popping up in the mix too, but as we head towards the end of the quarter on there, I mean, there's major incentives on there, like I think there's like a 50 million campaign on OKX and 40 million. Don't quote me on that. I'm doing it off the top of my head, but like of like cat tokens that are going in there, and then that will let you own a piece of the stack as well, and then you could devote it in there. So I just think of it like, imagine getting early on Aerodrome or Velodrome kind of stuff. Like being able to get voting early and get all those crazy like incentives. Like I don't want to promise anything, but like those are like cool things to get on. Everybody wants to be early on there. So like if you're in that zone, it'd be great to like get in there and like start early and start experimenting with the voting and seeing how Katana plays out in the Flywheel.
Awesome. And yeah, I mean, weekend's coming up, so no better opportunity to start messing around with that.
Yeah,
and
you can check out the app directly. I think you can link it on there, but like the app directly is right here. It's very easy user friendly on there. If you have assets on other bridges and everything whatnot, then you are like ready to go. But you can literally swap in. The swap in is a bridge, so from any other chain, you can like basically bring in and swap in directly, or just go one-to-one for your thing. A little bit of bridging fees on there. I think I have my other wallet on here, but like definitely like different earn campaigns that are happening that are available for you. But yeah, different rates, great rates. This is based on like the rewards calculator, so you can definitely check in like what you have and what you can make if you put in like 1,000 AUSD, and let's say FTV is like this, like how much you would make in a certain amount of days on there. So definitely, like, again, DeFi friendly. Those that are DeFi curious on there, definitely play around. Like, it's great to experiment. There are negative borrow yields on the Morpho app on there. So like getting paid to borrow, which is only in crypto, right? Like that's only that could happen. Right. Yeah. So like definitely checking out. If you don't have your AI agent, do it manually on the app on there. But it's definitely something that we're working on really hard on, and we're really proud of. Staking, once Cat goes live, will be live, ready to go. And then quests are fun too. If you are just learning your DeFi, it'll kind of take you through a flow of like making your first swap, making your first deposit into a vault on there, swapping for ETH, and you get a couple badges on here. I honestly don't know what those points are for something. That's something product is working on, like what gets that incentivized for what. But if you're just learning DeFi or just want to experiment with it, it's a great place to start as well, of just like getting into the groove of like what Katana can offer. And keep coming back to the app. The app is going to be your one-stop shop of everything that's happening in Katana. Again, we have a very condensed stack right here. So like, again, one order menu. Coming back to the Apple analogy. One iPad, one iPad Pro, one iPhone Pro, one MacBook, right? It's all going to be here directly on here. So all opportunities and everything will be available to you right on the fly on there. So yeah, it's a kind of a straightforward movement that we're going with, like a very concentrated app chain, for the lack of a better term, kind of focused, on DeFi and basically earning yield, getting the most out of your money, keeping the money, right? You don't want anything static. You want things moving, working for you.
Awesome. And yeah, we'll have all those links that Billy has just shown in the description of the podcast. If you're watching us live, I've just dropped them in the comments. So you guys definitely check it out. And Billy, as we're coming to time here, we've seen, at least in the beginning of this year up to now, a lot of bearish sentiment in the Web3 blockchain DeFi space. People, for lack of a better term, jumping ship to other opportunities. Yeah. For those people who are still in the space, or some people who might still be on the fence of whether to stay or not, how would you kind of describe the opportunities that are still in the space of DeFi?
I think right now, blockchain crypto technology has really shown its value prop in like the financial aspect of it. Like, escrows, payments has been blowing up a lot. Those things that we were very excited about in 2020, 2021 as new devs started coming in, are now showing its face. Like it's a little bit more institutional now, right? And so not so much DAOI, but more like structured on there. DeFi is still extremely valuable with AI and like, kind of like logging into like engineering jobs in a sense. It's very hard for juniors to kind of get a start. What is going to set you apart is your ability to understand how these mechanics work, you know, get your hands a little bit dirty with it, because experience is what's going to make you set apart on these kind of things, right? If I didn't know about, looping strategies or anything, like how can I design an MCP server around it, optimized, right? So like that's kind of your value prop of like, with these things that you see like product market fit, those are the things I really dove in on. Some things I didn't see were product market, and we're seeing like the market kind of faded out. Could there be another opportunity for it? Absolutely. Everybody always say consumer kind of apps. We might get there one day, but the tech is just not there yet. We're working on there. If you want to be a pioneer for that, that's going to be a hard way up, but you could, right? But if you want to, see where like those product market, I mean, there's tons of people. Like you look at institutionals, they're looking for DeFi leads every day, right? So DeFi infrastructure, DeFi smart contract advisor, curators, they're all looking for it because there is value in that. So it's just that has shifted a little bit to a little bit more institutional style on there, but it's not like there's not opportunity. And with AI, it's kind of exciting because you can see a lot of creativity fly on there. And like with AI auditing, in a sense, we're not there yet. Don't just use AI, but now you're not stuck on like having a 50K audit before you can deploy your product, right? And I think that was a major stopper right now, because I can make a website and it's not financial, so no big deal. But if I wanted to make a smart contract and deploy, a lot of ideas happen and they all get stopped at that auditing cost, 50K, 100K, right? And so that dream dies. So now with AI and having access to get much better idea and security, maybe those costs will come down greatly. And then like you can get more experimentation again, and we can start seeing some really cool ideas spark on there. So like both sides of the table on there of like what can and can't happen on that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of smart contract quotes or smart contract audit quotes as pretty, yeah, unless you already got the dough or have some VC money. Yeah, it is indeed out of the reach of some people, but there's other alternatives around, and AI with where it's at today, I think can squash a decent amount of like the beginner errors at least. But yeah, we'll see how it evolves. I think it's it is 100% exciting. And I guess with that, we're at time. Billy, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come chat with us, dropping some alpha. I'm certainly quite bullish on Katana, and I'm really keen to see it continue to evolve as the years come along here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Yeah, Katana team has been grinding. We're literally working. I don't think I've ever worked more in my life in the crypto space. To be honest, that's been pretty hefty. Yeah. So yeah. Very good stuff. Very exciting. Yeah. So thank you so much for having me, Dar.
My pleasure. Anytime. And with that, I want to wish everybody a very happy Friday, happy weekend, wherever you may be. And we'll catch you back here for another episode of DevNTell next week. Till then, have a good one, folks. Cheers. If you enjoyed this episode of DevNTell, be sure to subscribe to never miss an episode. Till the next one, cheers.